Howdy friends and denizens of the internet. Today in this devlog I'm going to show you something that I don't think is normally shown by content creators and indie devs, but it's failure, or it's me solving 50% of a problem. So I've been hacking away at a very unique issue germane to the UpBlender game engine, and that is the use of texture atlases and modulo math. So you don't really need to know what the modulo math thing is, but this is a very hotly pursued item for UpBlender game engine and a lot of game engines where you want to use a large texture atlas, a single texture, but then have it seamlessly repeat, but do some vector math so you could use it. And you can scale the texture. So here you can mask it off. So here you can see, and it may actually not come out very well in my codec here for the video, that I have a seamless repeating texture here. And what that actually is, if you look in the actual image of the texture atlas here, it's a large image atlas seen here that each has a seamlessly repeating texture that can be referenced and then kind of clipped out with vector math and then shown in the game. The only problem is that when you clip using modulo math or modulo math, I forget how to pronounce it, in Blender Game Engine or UpBlender Game Engine, what happens is it creates an artifact. And the artifact you can see is a little bit more visible if I actually turn up the mip mapping a little bit here. Let me see. Now you can see this little white edge here along the edges of the pattern, and it's very revealing. It shows the seam. It reveals where the seams are in this vector math. Now, if I remove the mip mapping entirely and run it without any mip mapping at all, you cannot see these seams anymore. But this is a highly recommended item, I think, in the UpBlender game engine. I'm actually just going to subject you, if you're willing to participate, in me trying to solve this problem. And I think I've solved it about 50% of the way. And it seems to be that there's nothing wrong with the vector math. In fact, the vector math is pretty much perfect. So here you can see right here, I'm not sure if the codec's showing up, but there's a line right here. And this is the vector math that is not affected. It doesn't have mip mapping, so it's not being blurred the way the texture is. So if I remove all mip mapping from the texture like so, then the image shows up perfectly. But even with normal mip mapping, the LOD bias turned way up, you can see what it ends up creating is a this artifact. So how to fix it? Well, there's a couple things. One is you could consign yourself to just removing this, and that's okay, but again, now there's no mip mapping, so this actually hurts the overall frame rate of your game, or the performance of your game. What you also could do is, once you're affecting these texture atlases, what you can do is you can add a limiting factor to the level of detail bias. You can use the camera. So if you go up here and you go to camera data, you could use the view Z depth here. And you can see now it's exacerbating the issue over here and then kind of truncating it up here. So if I go to search and I use squeeze math, I can actually kind of play with these values here, and I could find a happy medium here to also it's better if I probably invert it. So let's go to color, invert. So yeah, this is going to be a very long devlog, so buckle up if you want to, or just check out if you don't want to. That makes total sense. Thank you to all my patrons. I'll put the names up in lights. Here they are. And now I'm going into the video, and what I'm going to be doing is just showing you in real time me attempting to solve this problem. I will be posting this on my Discord, and I'm most likely going to fail. This is actually a very difficult problem, and it seems to not work out very well. So let's all dig in. What I'm attempting to do right now is I'm using the view distance, so that there's mip mapping, say, at this point, but if we do a little bit of addition, then the map only starts here. Okay, so what I can see is it makes the close-up map here kind of it does start to erode this artifact. Not enough though that it makes sense. It makes the MIP mapping look very stark. You could see almost like a day and night contrast thing happening where the MIP map comes like a storm front here and ultimately just kind of defeats the purpose. Any benefit you might get from the actual see this, so limiting by view vector or view distance in this case doesn't really, it does technically make the artifact go away, but also you can still see it right here in between. And here's a good way to get out of a problem like this. And I've been working with this, so actually I already started, and I'm going to show my progress. The problem seems to occur when you use ceiling math or floor math or less than or greater than. These functions are cutting off the vector perfectly, so it's like exactly at a specific float or integer, and it's preventing the MIP mapping from on the texture from recognizing that. So what I'm instead I'm attempting to do is using maximum and minimum values and then trying to express that. So you can see I'm using ceiling right now, and what that does is that does create the artifact. I'm going to turn on the X, Y, and Z mapping here so we can see what's going on, and I'm going to have this texture repeat a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to turn this off here. So basically, if I go into this image here, we can see I have right here one chunk of the map, and I have isolated it. And what's really good about this isolating of this specific item is that it's not creating the floor math. Now, it would be really ideal to be able to mask this section off, then use floor, ceiling, or less than, greater than, and then start extrapolating out the way you would with the modulo function, but modulo math doesn't work in this regard. So if you actually turn this on and we give it a number like this, there you can actually see it within here even. It actually, even within this small section that I've created here, you can see the artifact is being created. So I really think that other than doing something very strange like creating an entirely new texture that's a 32-bit float and then having that somehow seamlessly repeat, because then it would also be beholden to MIP mapping, instead what I'm going to attempt to do is using maximum and minimum math and sine math. So why sine? Because sine, it's not taking the clock and resetting it at each and every single cycle. So if you think of this red texture blend as a gradient, you can see it has the value of 1 here and the value of 0 here. And then this is 0.5, sorry, this is 0.5, this is 0, and this is negative 0.5. So it's a gradient. And what I'm attempting to do is get this gradient here to repeat. So if we look at the modulo math, I'm never going to say that right, and I play with the value here, you should be able to see this. This is the repeating behavior that we want. We want it going from 1 to 0, 1 to 0, 1 to 0 over and over again, so we can repeat our texture. But like I said, this artifact shows up. So if we go and we use sine, we can attempt to express the same function, but this time using sine math. So sine is, I think it may work better because you're not repeating the texture, but it's allowed to extrapolate outward, repeating. There's a couple other functions that we can work with here, like cosine, which is the opposite, or tangent, like so. And a lot of these actually look pretty promising. But you can see with tangent, it appears the same issue occurs once more. So actually, if I turn this on here and check the texture, well, It's not, but it's doing something extremely strange. It looks like it's really, really kind of messing things up here. So that's a possibility, and I'm really kind of open to any ideas and solutions because, well, it's not solved simply by waving a wand, and I'm going to do it. I welcome anyone that's interested to work along with me here while I just kind of speak and try to come up with a solution. I'm going to use the sign math here and try to get it to repeat. Again, I can't use ceiling and floor and less than and greater than, which would be incredibly useful. So I'm going to try to probably take this texture here, and I'm going to work just with the textures. Working with this repeating map is useful, but it's more helpful to see the gradient and hopefully get the behavior from the gradient that I want first. So let's start with the sign math. All right, so now it's repeating in all directions. So this is let's say this is 1 and this is 0. Now I want to get this section from here to here and make that inverted. So I'm basically inverting. So it's no longer mirroring, but it's instead repeating, repeating, repeating. And I may be able to pull this off with maximum and minimum math. Like I said, so we're going to start out here and we're going to see what it does. Right. Looks like it's damaging it. Oh, actually what it does, it looks like it's taking the whole value of the sign and then maximum and maximum. I think it's taking the whole thing here and it's changing so this is bringing the 0 up for all sides, but we only want to affect one small section of this. So how will I do this? This is where it gets tricky. Well, let's see if I could try and subtract it from itself here. See if that gives me any options. So we're going to do maximum 0, 0. Okay. Well, look at that. That's interesting. So we've got something unique going on here. It does look like I'm able to create a hard edge by tweaking these values here. So I'm subtracting, and actually I can probably clamp it. So in my mind, what I'm trying to do right now is, let's take a look at one of these here. If I could create an extremely hard edge like that, fantastic. So now I have my stripes. So again, this would be something that'd be easy to achieve if I was using my floor and ceiling math, but I can't. If I get close here, now you see there's no artifact, there's just a gradient, or there's a blend. Now it could be, like, by virtue of increasing this number to a very high number, it ends up creating the artifact. But also using clamp may be something that will work. Clamping, nope, didn't work. Okay. So let's attempt to use a moderate value here. Let's do -50. So this is minimum and maximum. If I go higher, I guess if I go higher, it just destroys it. Okay. So, all right. Well, it certainly does look like it's warming up to create the same issue. So this isn't this. I could say that the 50% of what I'm solving right now is not the problem, but clearly using greater than, less than, or modulo math nodes, while it's nice, and it would be really, really nice if you could get it to work, it won't behave with the MIP mapping offered by the Blender game engine. It's just not going to work. So we're going to have to find a workaround here, and that's what I'm doing now. So we have the sign, and we have a minimum and maximum, and I'm doing this to get a hard line. I'm realizing I could probably use squeeze math here. Let's just try and use squeeze math, the squeeze value. So if I could squeeze this value, I can get my same contrasty thing that I can then use to, there we go. See, I got the same contrast thingy. So this is, again, me kind of overthinking things a little bit and coming off wrong. And this is actually great because now I have an aperture that I can increase and decrease the amount, which is great. Okay, so good, we have our aperture. Fantastic. So now we have sine, and we have our first, we'll call this the mask. Okay, so this mask here will allow us to mask off something and then have it go in the opposite direction. So sine is here. Let's do another one, and let's call it cosine. Also, I will not be limiting myself to a specific number of nodes here. This is simply trying to get it to work. So if I do cosine, and let's take the same squeeze value here and just see what we get. Probably an invert. Okay, so we have a little bit of an offset there. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. And why do I want this? Well, we take the math and we're going to subtract one from the other and see what we get. So now we have a little section just like we would have with the modulo nodes. So let's take a look and see what kind of weird damage this is doing to, and let's connect it here first. Let's see what this is doing to the actual texture. It's probably giving us some funky results. Very funky results. Very funky. Okay, so by messing with the width of the sine here, you're getting a very strange thing. We don't want this. We want just the regular cosine here. So let's just have this show up. Okay, good. And now we have our section that we're masking off. And I think actually yes, I think I'm organically creating the very same artifacts. Not organically, but yes. So you can see if I use a very high number here to sort of squeeze this, it's already creating this kind of squeezed value this is what results in the very, very large and unfortunately unstoppable artifact. You can see it's right there. So hold on. So this is normally where people might give up, but don't just give up. Keep trying. You might still learn something from it. You never know. I'll try and subtract things from that. So I've created the artifact just in a kind of more manual way, of course, but perhaps if I resort this to or just go to a single, let's go to a integer here, see what happens. Oh, where did I lose my line here? There it is. Okay, so let's go to 1. Okay, so 1 and 0.5. So this creates the, unfortunately, I'm still stuck with the artifact. And I don't think I've actually succeeded in removing it. I could try and clamp values to see if that actually solves the issue. No such luck. Okay, so I have a squeeze value. I could try and clamp both of these values. That's not working either. Okay, so it seems that it's not the floor and math value, it's this squeezing that's going on. Okay, so well, where do I go from here? So I'm actually kind of at a loss here. I really thought that maybe I would be able to get this to do something a little, at least closer to something in the right direction. Well, let me think here. I guess I'll have to think. I'm trying to have it repeat. Well, let's just start over from scratch and see if I can come up with something better. So we're back with the gradient. Now if I use anything that squeezes the value or brings it together like that, what about clamp? No. Seems like clamping might help. So let's try clamping. So we're going to go back to our setting. And it's possible, actually, I could use addition and then clamp that. So let's go to a converter, let's go to get some math, and we're going to have sine value here, and then we're going to, I'm going to try and clamp something. So I'm going to subtract a value here. See if I can clamp things off here. Nope. Oh, maybe sine clamp there. Here we are. Okay. Let's see if this does anything. Nope. All right. Can I just do that? Now that's pretty funky. Also, that you can't do that. It's not possible. It's interesting though. Okay, so fortunately, that's not something that works. Unfortunately, I could try using cosine and then clamping from that. Nope. Multiply. So now I'm using cosine and I'm using multiply. I don't think that this is actually hurting it. That's very unique what's happening now. I don't think that that's helping me though. Okay. So, well, I guess I'm kind of at a loss here. Let me think. It may not be possible. It's a little disappointing, and sometimes these things happen. Now, I don't think it's impossible. I don't. I still think it's something that I could dig into and figure out. These things kind of can take patience. Let's take another stab at it. Now, I'm just going to look once more at the vectors here. Now, I noticed that there's another one, which is fraction. Fraction also seems to create the same exact problem. It creates this little artifact. You can still see the jagged lines here. And just for checking, let's take a look here. Now, you can still see that the let's just turn the MIP mapping up very high here. Now, actually, don't get too excited, but the artifact is still there. The artifact still presents itself, though not as readily because it's taking a quarter of things here, but it's still there. This is not by any means a victory. This has got the same problem. So let's try something stranger. Let's just try and see if we can create something that gets us closer. We'll try using minimum and maximum math, because that was the most successful for me. We'll use minimum, we'll use this, and then we have them both subtract from each other. So here we go here we go here, and there. Okay, now let's see if I can get something to repeat here. So that's our value. I'm simply playing with the clamp right now to see if it allows me to do anything unique with the minimum and maximum values here. Huh. So this is pretty interesting. No, it's just creating a very large, but what I can probably try and do is probably pull two together. Let's try that. So now I'm working with the whole shape here, and I think what I'm doing is I'm taking the maximum and the minimum, and let's find the center here. Where's the center? There's the center. Okay. So if I have the center here, I can extend this gap here, which is interesting. Now if I extend that gap, is it possible, do you think, that if I then subtract from this section right here, the basically imagine this is now a sine function, right? So now this sines out. We have a sine that continues looping, and it has these two. And I'm saying that because I'm looking at both of these here, and I see this. They don't appear to be seamlessly repeating because they're mirroring each other. But let's see if we can add them to each other and maybe get something effective out of this. Ooh, that's weird, huh? That is a very weird function. Okay. Whoa. Okay, some weird stuff is happening here. Okay. So maybe add's not what we want. Maybe we want divide here. So we don't want to multiply or divide, we want to subtract or add. So subtract looks like the right choice at the moment here. So here's the maximum. Now, if I have the maximum and the minimum here, but I use sine and it goes back and forth, will this then reverse this? Let's take a look here. Okay, well, alright. I'm basically just stretching a gap between these two. I guess what I could do is I could take one of these here. I guess if the number of nodes is no limit here, I could do this. And now, it's not exactly cricket to do so, but I can do a maximum value and try to pin two of these together. Alright, so these numbers are getting a little wonky. Alright, -2. We're supposed to be inverting this thing now. Now I'm going to move this in and see what happens. Huh. Let me flip it around here. Okay, well, let's try and do something with this here. We have a maximum and a minimum. Souffle here. So that's not really doing me any favors, so let's go back to where we were. At least we had a mirrored effect that was working. Okay, so if we have a minimum and a maximum, but they seem to be mirroring each other, right here at least. There's a mirroring effect right here. What happens if I then have this do some sine math? Just sine. How's it look? It looks like, no, it's still mirroring itself. No, we just have this extended thing here. What if I go all the way the opposite direction here? No good. Stretching out too. Alright, so that's no good. I will note though that the mirror here that is happening, there is no artifact, which is fantastic. There's an image there, but there's no artifact. So that's encouraging. But again, this is in progress. Well, it's progress. Let's not get too down on ourselves here. Another way to look at this is to use absolute. Let's try that one out. Like I said, this is going to be pretty boring, and sign up if you want, or jump off. This is literally game development. I'm literally showing how I solve a problem. I don't think too many people will actually watch this video unless, well, maybe I actually solve it, and in which case, perhaps this becomes something that more people look at. But let's take a look and see. Let's do absolute. So absolute is creating the same mirroring effect. And maybe this is a little bit weird, but can I do the absolute mirroring effect here and then, I don't know, after that then add sine onto it? That was a little weird. That's a weird thought. That's not possible, but it's worth noting that if I have absolute here, and then I plug that in there, because I already have this mirroring effect, what happens now? Do I get the inverse of that mirroring effect? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I mean, let's take a look and see what we get. Well, I'll be darned. I get a mirroring of the mirroring. That's interesting. So almost everything is now mirrored consistently across the board here. So maybe we don't want to have absolute there, but we want to have absolute here. That did nothing. Okay, good to know. And we're going to cut this out here, and we're going to have that be here. What about one of these boys here? Is anything here happening? Nope. What about the end, at the very end of this whole slog? So you can see this is not a very artful procedure. This is not a very clever tactic. This is, you could say that this is kind of like stabbing in the dark. I see. Okay, so what's happening is that it's extending beyond like that. So if I clamp this, or I clamp, there we go. This might actually give me more control. Alright, so it's going further that way, but I want it to minimum, so let's try maximum again. So by clamping these two, maybe I can get something out of it. I get nothing. Okay. That's too bad. Alright. I thought maybe I could somehow get these things to repeat seamlessly. Perhaps by adding them together. Okay, so I'm going to change my tack right here. Yeah, I'm going to change my tack. So it seems as though I can't do this with the math. I don't think it's impossible, but it's certainly something that I can't figure out. Not lately. I challenge the community to figure it out. But in the meantime, a thought occurs. And this is something I've already kind of played with before, and I haven't really implemented it very much. But what if we just try to use a texture? So, for instance, if this whole modulo math is what's causing the issue, and it's because it doesn't MIP map, can we make that image MIP map, so to speak? So let's try that out. And I've already actually baked down a gradient texture here. So this gradient texture represents the X and the Y axis. So here we are. So we're trying something new. Let's change channels here. We have a texture, we have our output, and we have this. So what I'm going to basically do is I'm going to convert the vector of the red and the green of the UV vectors. So I'm going to add a geometry node, and we're going to input the UVs right in here. We're not going to do that. First we're going to do our math. So we're going to do a converter, and we're going to use a separate RGB, and then we're going to use our converter again, and we're going to do a combine RGB. So there we are. And let's go look at our image for a moment here. So the red is a gradient. Now you can tell it's going from here, it's going 0.5, 0, negative 0.5. And this, unfortunately, I think is a little different. This is going from, it's going wild. I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't even be. Okay, this is very strange, but that's what we want. Oh, you know why? It's because the UVs are, there we go. So now it's a single UV. I just reset the UVs, so it's basically a single UV plane like that. Now, if I go over here, yeah, the offset's here. So basically this is 0.5, 0, negative 0.5, and this is 1 to 0. So I need to get this to match up with that. Because textures are from 1 to 0, white to black. So it doesn't actually go in the negative. So what I need to do is take this, and I'm going to add a converter math node, and I'm going to multiply it. That's right, multiply it by 2. And then, because I want it to be narrower, so, and then I'm going to do some addition. And I'm going to move it over like so. There. So now it should look like this, which is the red channel, and now the same exact effect as I've gone over 0.5 and then multiplied it by 2, which in turn gives me the same thing. So what have I done here is I've basically recreated the UV gradient and turned it into a texture. One thing though is that I'm currently multiplying the wrong part, I think, here. So what I do want is I want this red value to be distorted in such a way so that I get the correct results. What do I mean by that? Let's go over here and let's take the multiply and the add, and we're going to take add and multiply and have that affect the vector. So to see what this is actually doing here, we don't want it to just do this, right? We want it to see what we're going to get out of this. What a unique and wonderful opportunity here to possibly get a repeating texture. It's not though. Okay, so now we have this repeating texture. And it goes whoop, 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 whoop. Kind of like a little target, really. And let's multiply by 4, just so we can get more repeats. And let's combine the RGB values here and the RGB values here. All right. And now, well, that's not doing anything, is it? Because this needs to be over here. So we'll jump this up here, and jump this over here. Fabulous. So what have we done is we've taken 1/4 here. I'm actually pretty impressed with this. This is a wonderful result. What do I mean by impressed? Well, take a look. That is a seamless repeating texture map. Now, so this means that the tile is repeating. If I actually put a gap here, we'll probably see it reveal the gap. Let's take a look here. Okay, it's stretching and distorting things here. And it's not repeating. It's not repeating. So that's no good. Let's see if we can do better. -0.5, 4, 2, 1. It certainly looks like it's repeating there. It's just one image though. It's not actually repeating. There's the repeat right there. And to my chagrin, there is unfortunately, there is an artifact there. Though this actually could be due to pixels. This could be a pixel problem. For instance, it may be going to 1, not 0. So let's go take a look and see in a graphical editor if we can actually fix this. It's possible. We might be able to correct this. Also, I do think that this is not the correct way to do this. I think that we want this texture here to affect the colors. Not the amount of the texture to just affect the colors, but not the actual mapping. So here we'll have black and white. So we'll say the color here, and we're going to be multiplying black times it, and we'll use the color here as the percent of how much it's affecting things. I think that should do it. So let me just take a look here. So there's our center piece there. So the ultimate test here will be if I add a lot of MIP mapping. No, it's actually not affecting it. So let's try something different. Let's have this single value be affected by a math node. Let's multiply it by the color. Okay, that's not doing it. How about divide by this LOD bias? It's not doing anything. Maybe it needs to be tied to the UVs though. Let's take a look now, see if it does anything. Oh, there we go. Now it's distorting the image. Oh boy, look at that. Look at that. That's very weird. So we've created a very trippy image here. Let's try multiply now. There we are. So we have something here. All right. This is entertaining, but definitely not progress. All right, well, let's jump back over here. So we have the red value and let's do it over here. Once we get to the red value here, red, there we are. You can see it's affecting things as well. So this certainly is creating a very unique visual, but it's not actually solving my problem. All right, let's go back to the drawing board here. Now we have a color, and So now this is interesting. It's squishing and it's only doing 50% here. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Also, you can see the artifact, even if I go negative 55.55, it still remains. And if I go higher, it actually starts to go away. And that tells me that I think the math is actually wrong in the texture, so I can possibly fix this. Let's take a look at this as well, because it is repeating something right now. It's not doing all 4 quadrants, it's doing 50% of the quadrants. So we need more Jan Michael Vincents. That's a cartoon reference. Let's try clamping some of these values here. For here, let's see now, that's all 4 quadrants. But we're going to go over here and try to have it seamlessly repeat. Oh, it is seamlessly repeating. Look at that. Wait, this could be a false alarm again. This could be like just like before where I thought it was seamlessly repeating, but it's not. Ah, false alarm. Look at that. See? Okay. So, it's not. False alarm again. But if you look over on the right-hand side, it is seamlessly repeating right here. So, okay, I'm encouraged. Also, yeah, I'm noticing that the pixels are doing something weird too, but we'll get back to that. Negative 0.5. Okay. So, if I'm here, and then I go to this side, it does work. If I turn off this LOD magic, okay. What I can do is I could set a maximum and close this gap right here. And possibly make this seamlessly repeat. Let's take a look. We're going to use right here I'm going to take this. So this is controlling how much the squish is happening. And I do want my repeat. I want these to repeat like so. So 4.5 seems to be the magic number here. And we're going to clamp it. No, that's not going to do anything. That doesn't help. But we can go over here and we're going to do, once we get to this part, let's do a maximum and a minimum. So go over here. All right, so that's kind of sucking in that way. What about minimum? All right. Well, look at that. So that's not really solving our problem either. Okay, well, you can see I can get very close to the edge like this, and it's wrapping around in a circle. Also, this wraparound seems to be exactly what's causing the artifact, because the MIP mapping would be offset by the number of pixels. I mean, like the distance. So the distance is being offset. So that's basically the distance that needs to be closed in order to undo the pixelation that's happening, or the artifact. So even if I was able to actually close this using the correct math, which I'll still try, I would probably have still an even greater issue of the artifact still remaining. So let's take a look here, and this is 1, and over here it is 100%. So we go from 100% to 1. That's why. So we don't want 100% to 1. What do we want? We want 100% to 0. So copy this, paste this, move over 1 pixel. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer. We're just going to make everything solid black. Now this is, take a look, 0 and 1. Alright, so let's see what happens if I refresh this texture. Look at that. So actually it has created an extra little tooth here. So maybe we don't have to go from 0 to 100, we need to go from 1 to 99. Let's go back over here. duplicate this now. We're going to go copy this. So maybe 1 is where we want to be, and the 99 here, that should be 99, not 100. So here, just this. All right, let's try that now. Refreshing. So it seems to have extended it on the other side. So we don't want 99, but we want 0. All right, so let's see if that closes the gap for everyone. It doesn't, not even close. All right, so we've learned that this texture thing, it might work somewhere, but not here, because I'm trying to, well, we're trying to get it to work right now. Perhaps if I don't use any of this math here, we just rely entirely on this texture here. I do think it's causing strange artifacts, and so we should probably avoid using this texture. But there's a few more things I would like to try before I do that. First, I'm going to try and do something a little different. By the way, I've probably fallen out of frame. No, I'm still here. Okay, so, multiply. So this is scaling it, and this is going to set the minimum here. It could be a matter of converting coordinates. What do I mean by that? So I'm getting coordinates here. So let's try that out. Just taking an entirely new tack. Maybe I'll keep these ones here though. Okay, so we're going to jump over here. We're going to go look at this sample, which uses just standard a standard repeating texture map here. And we're going to turn off this LOD bias. And okay, so we're back with our default problem, and it's got these little artifacts. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? This is kind of, all right. It's a little hard to focus, but because this is, gets hard. What if we converted vector math? So if it's getting the MIP mapping, before we do that, let's convert it to camera, because then we're using the camera space. Let's see if that works and does anything for us. So we're going to go to converter. We're going to do vector. We're going to do vector transform. Let's start from the world, and we're using world coordinates now, and we're going to go to camera. So immediately I see it's still creating the artifact. What if I use just point though? All right. Well, what if I convert from world to world, and then from world to camera, or normal to point, and we'll do normals. We'll do world to object, camera, world. These normals are really kind of just messing things up. All right, so let's do vectors here. World to camera. I will state that, let's see what this does. This actually is really warping the thing, but the artifact still remains. Interestingly though, only one axis is now there because it's facing the other axis. But that doesn't do us any favors here. I thought it might be possible to kind of cleanse the artifact by switching from camera to vector and back again, or camera to object and then from object to camera. or object to object, because it might change the unfortunately, no, it has done none of these things. I'll try with UV too, just to make sure. I don't think it's going to help though. No, it's not going to help. Even if I did object to object, and then I did object to world or camera. No, the artifact still works. Okay, so this isn't working. Just as a last-ditch effort, I might try to do it after the math has been done. I have no faith that this will be helpful. In fact, I think it's just a fool's errand here. Yep, look at that. Though it does create some wonderfully unique results, it is not actually doing anything close to what we would hope it to be doing. Camera, world to camera, or camera to, well, actually, nope, that didn't do it. Camera to world, world to camera. Let's just turn up the LED bias so we can really see the error here. So as we cycle through these options, we don't miss anything. So you can see the, it's still there. All right. So yeah, that was a fool's errand, and that wouldn't work. But there's other things we can try. Let's try a few other things. Go back to the global coordinates. Let's go to view coordinates. What if we start with view? Does that actually still retain the, look at that. It still has the artifact. Even if I'm moving the camera around here and I'm looking at it, you can still see the lines. What a bummer. That's such a bummer. Wow. Even with Orco, there's no mapping option available that effectively destroys this mapping. Even normals? Normal might actually have something to it, but we'd have to go back to vector transform and go from normals to point or vector, camera world. No, it's not going to help. Okay. So it has nothing to do with that. Obviously, this is a texture-based issue. I can tell that because it's only solved by changing the LOD bias here. Also, things are looking wrong because we don't have the global texture on. All right, so we're back with the global texture. We are still stuck with the artifact. Well, like I said, I thought I may have been able to solve 50% of the problem, but I'm willing to fail at solving any part of the problem. This is kind of a pernicious little issue, and it has to do with the directly to do with the way the vectors work. They're not mip-mapped or anything. So there's an easier way to do it. It's very simple. You just subdivide your plane multiple times like so, and then you just reset each one of these tiles, and then you set one of these tiles down to your atlas like so. And now that would be a way to make things seamlessly repeat. But what makes this a little bit more special, let me just undo all what I just did there. I ruined that, so let's unwrap it. Okay, so the problem is that we want to be able to use global coordinates so we can scale and shift things like so. So you can scale and shift the texture and kind of move things around. It's kind of the dream. Makes it much more useful, and you can use it for large open worlds like my game. So is there any possible way to do this? Maybe. I really had some confidence that I would be able to make some progress and get a little bit farther, but really is kind of almost seems almost like it's impossible. Another option that you could do, which go to add-ons, go to system, and just turn off mip mapping. Now that does do the trick, but you can see you get this grainy like sand effect, which doesn't really do you any favors. The GPU mip mapping textures is kind of essential. So one other thing I was willing to try, and I might give it a shot. Let's just give it a shot before we give up. Again, I'm not giving up. These are all visual bugs that are just in the process of either being fixed or not fixed. But let's go over to cycles and see how cycles would handle this same issue. So, and obviously there's a couple more, there's a few more options in cycles that we can play with. So let's take a look and see what we can find. We have light paths. We can't do anything with that because it's not ray traced. But we have texture coordinates. We'll just hold on to that. There's nothing here that's really groundbreaking or new, but we can also maybe take the texture, an image texture here, input. Where is the image texture? Image texture. There we go. And we might be able to do something with that because the way it's being calculated may have something to do with it. Let's try and do some messed up stuff with that. Also, just while we're here, let's go look at the converters. They have color ramp, XYZ. We have combine XYZ, RGB. Let's math, RGB, separate, vector math, wavelength. That might be fun. Let's hold on to that one. And we'll also take a math node. Maybe they're special. Maybe they work different in cycles. Worth a shot, right? So why not? I'm going to jump over to my texture atlas. See, maybe just repeating the texture atlas using this different node, maybe it has different properties. You never can tell. So do modulo. What's the shortcut for that? There it is. I'm fairly certain that these are exactly the same nodes. Yeah, well, hope springs eternal. It does actually look better on one side. Let me just check one more time on this one here and make sure that I'm not, having a little bit of wishful thinking here. All right. No, it's still there. Darn. That would have been really fun if that fixed it, wouldn't it? Oh well, you can still see the arrows here. Alright, so that's one thing we might try. Let's also try a different texture input like this. So obviously this has LOD bias, but perhaps the way that the screen space is calculated with this, it would be different. Well, it certainly is different, but also it would help if I loaded a texture. So now we have the image and it's been loaded in. First thing I see is, whoops, doesn't have the same offset as the game engine version, but that's not to fear. The offset I believe is 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and then we do 1.5 here, and we are back to where we were. So this should be the same as this. So there they are. They both are the same. But we have some options here. We have how the image is actually calculated. We have color, non-color data, which seems to have done nothing. Oh well. What else do we have? We have, let's go back to color here. Linear, closest, cubic, interpolation. So this might actually help. Let's take a look. We have linear, closest, cubic, and smart. It's done nothing for us. Sphere, box. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Did it just do it? I don't know if this is working or not, but that's funny, isn't it? Oh, okay, well, I'm kind of in disbelief actually. Let's go back to flat for just a minute. I think I'm in disbelief. Let's go to smart. So we were in linear. What about extend? What about clip? Okay, so clip, repeat, extend, clip, single image. Image sequence does nothing for us. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm kind of afraid to go back to it right now. Uh, so, okay, granted, uh, it's still happening a little bit, actually. The artifact is still there. It's still there, but to a substantially lower degree than if you were using flat. So let me just take a look at the flat for a second here, and you can see the it's happening a lot here. There's a lot of it. But if we go to box, it's not perfect actually, but a lot of it has actually been, well, quite frankly, lobbed off. So that's pretty exciting. Let me just check this here. Now it's possible. Okay, now I see it now. I see it here. It's on this one now, and it is showing up. But with this one, it's not. This is interesting. So we've, I think what I've come to is something interesting. It's still there, but it's far less pronounced, especially with longer distances. You can see that it's there, but when I go flat, you can see it's far more noticeable than if I go to box. I almost hesitate, but what if I just turn this blend on? Does this do anything? Also, the scaling of these UVs here, this may have something to do with it. What I've done here. Huh. Let me just turn that off there. No, it's still there. It's still there. Damn. That would have been really cool if I just solved it on camera like this. This may be my preferred method of doing this now. I'm not sure, but if we look at the let's look at some of the other possible ways of calculating this. Smart, non-color data, color, sphere. So the sphere does something really weird here. That doesn't look right at all. It's worth noting though that the sphere is almost hardly showing the artifact, even though it's distorting the image in a pretty unforgivable way. But if we have box versus flat, well, so the image is still seamlessly repeating, but I think it's I'm pretty sure it's more to do with the fact that it's choosing a different. It's just choosing a different texture that shows it up less. Okay. Well, that was really close, and I really felt like I almost had it for a second. Boy, sorry to lead anyone on there, but if you've stayed along this long, you've probably been invested in trying to learn it. But good for you if you fast forwarded, because you figured out how to do things quicker. Extend, repeat, or clip. So clipping might be an option. It may be that when you clip something, let's do flat. Linear, okay, so clip, extend. Okay, now actually I see a difference. If you can actually, there's a slight difference if I go to repeat or clip. There's actually a slight difference in how it renders out here. Extend, clip, repeat. So we're just kind of cycling through menu options at this point. There's box. Now box does have a unique ability to change the way this thing kind of looks. Also, it's changing the texture too, though, like the offset. Sphere and tube. These are all pretty broken. The also the blend factor here doesn't seem to be doing anything. But it does beg the question that it's very much dependent on how you load the image in, or what type of image is being loaded in, or indeed how that image is being sampled. So it's something to consider, is that there may be a way to load in a image and sample that image in cycles perhaps that's unique or better than is available in the up Blender game engine currently. I don't see any other sample options here, any other sampling options available other than what I've already been kind of playing with here. So let's clip that. We'll go back to up Blender game engine here. Now, the artifacts still remain. Oh well. We did have that wavelength node, didn't we? Where did wavelength go? I'm not sure what this is, but I would like to see what it does. Well, it's probably not going to work in the yeah, it's not going to work here. That was pretty obvious, actually. I kind of knew that was going to happen. Well, I could try and do the converter, and we'll do a separate out RGB. And yeah, there's nothing to be seen here. Wavelength just doesn't work here, unfortunately. So back to the drawing board here. It was kind of exciting for a moment being able to use this, even from all the way up here. If I just switch this one out here, it does look like it improves. Let's go back to box, point. So this one versus that one. Look at that, that's almost non-existent. I do feel like it's a little better. But this actually brings up another point. This is something else I would like to try, is this scaling of things seems to be affecting the amount of mip mapping that's happening, or the frequency of it. So what if we really set the location off to some wild high number here, and then we took a look at things here. Huh. So sometimes the artifact is hard to spot with these textures. Cursor to center. We're going to go look our cursor there. So there we are. So finding the center of your object, you can always see the artifact right there. So this is what I'm going to stick to from now on. But I did think it might be possible to somehow affect the appearance of the artifact based on scaling alone, vectors, normals, or texture. Well, that's just making it even worse there. That's just terrible. But we could scale it, and the scaling might do something. I will say that I am seeing some change there. So it could be scaling massively down and then massively back up again actually has an effect. I'm not sure, but 0.555, we will find out in just a moment here. Okay, so let's go back to the center of the world here. 555. Okay, we have this one here. Let's mute this here. So if I mute these two here, I should see a change. Okay, so it's actually rather difficult to see if there's any change happening right now. I don't think so. So we're going to do a little quick test. We're going to do a screenshot here, and then I'm going to plop that in here, and now we're going to do the same thing again, because there's almost like it's almost like a an eye test. I'm going to pop that in right there. All right, so I can get really close and just look at these pixels here. I do actually see a change. I see a change. This one, layer 2, there seems to be some interpolation between the two pixels. There's an implied blending here. No pun intended. I don't mean blender. So if I look at these colors here, this is something interesting. So these are all 40%, I'm pretty sure. Okay, and then these are clearly mixing. So the scaling of this affects things. That's interesting to note. And when it's turned off, that is when there's some benefit. And when it's on, you're exacerbating this lack of interpolation. It's the scale. So rather than going to a massive number and then back down again, what if we went to a minuscule number and went up again? Now it could be that this interpolation is being caused by the math itself, and if you do this, there's just a diminishing returns here. But if I do this, so okay, this is rather exciting. I'm going to take a picture of that, and now let's go back over here. So okay, no artifacts anymore, but we are looking at a very close-up shot of something here. So now what can be done about this? Well, I'm afraid we can't really do anything with global coordinates, but maybe there's something we can test with the UVs. So there's no artifacts yet. So far, I'm a little cautiously optimistic. Now I've been let down before by this process here, so I don't think that this is actually going to solve anything here, but I do my very best to solve these issues one at a time. So I don't know what I'm looking at here. I may have gone too small because, oh wow, okay, we're really pulling back into space here. Okay, let's look at the image here. Okay, so we're going to reset it. Okay, let's add an entirely new plane because I kind of destroyed this one. All right, good. Now we have our plane. Let's reset the normals, and let's just hold on to this for a second here. Okay, let's go back to the original and let's look at what we're dealing with. So once we do the vector stuff, we can affect it. It seems like we can affect it. We scale it up. So let's go back to the center of the image, and there's the artifact. When I take a screenshot here, I look at it. Yes, there is some interpolation. Okay, so what happens if you scale it up? Vector mapping is obviously when you scale it down. Okay, maybe don't go so high this time though. Let's just scale it up. Double. Yeah? Double the scaling. Okay. Now let's print the screen. Now let's do that. What has changed? See, now this is where it gets kind of difficult because it's almost like a an optical illusion. But okay, let's just look at these pixels here. This is 84. So let's just only look at these ones here. Copy them and paste them here. So you can see actually they're the same. There's no difference in the amount of interpolation happening currently. But let's take it a step further, 0.5. All right. Now this is interesting. If I go to 1, oh, look at that, I do see it happening now. So that's an actual change. If we look here, you can see the interpolation is actually stretching. There it is. So there's the line there, and then you see it moves along there like a little conga line there. Possibly an actual color change too. So maybe vector helps. See, what I'm doing is I'm kind of watching it as it moves along like a conga line here. And oh, hello there. Maybe we can do things by scaling the texture instead. Let's do 100, 100, 100, 100. Yep, that was a change too. So I can see that the little lines, you can actually see they're actually moving here as I scale it up. See that? They're moving back and forth. Okay, so there's some sort of, there's a way to affect these things at least. What if I go to an insanely high number? So very high numbers seem to make them go away, or at least space them out so much that they seem to be diminishing. Huh. Okay, well, let's do 1,000. Let's scale it up by 1,000. And let's see what that gets us something. Alright, so we scaled this up by 1,000, which means this whole thing's got to go down by 0.001, I guess? Really small like that to see any kind of gain. Boy, now that's looking very messy. Ooh. Ooh, easy. Alright, so what I've managed to do is create an entirely new dimension with way too many artifacts. Okay, so we can affect it with scaling, no doubt, but it seems to be doing us more harm than good. And what if we take things in the other direction? Just with the point math? Point scale 0.1. Yeah, okay, back to the same dimension x. Okay, so that's not working. All right. Let's just see if that is the same thing that applies after we apply the vector mask here. The vector math. Probably. Let's see. Hello, dimension x. Are you still there? Scale of 0.1. Looks like it's still there. Okay, so it's affecting it for certain, but it's not really helping us. We get this like craziness instead. But it is interesting to note that we have the ability to change things. Okay, so, or at least alter things here. I hope you all pardon me for treating this like a stream. I know that people stream stuff and then they talk on the stream. That's what I'm doing right now. We will see if it works. All right, 111. So, oh boy, one of the most frustrating things with working with this is every couple seconds thinking that you've possibly cracked it, and then you realize that your textures are just so complicated that you're not really seeing things properly. So I just thought I had it again. It's quite a tease. It's torture, really. Okay, so I thought possibly by rotating these 360. Like so, it might actually somehow have an effect on the coordinates, but alas, to no avail, unfortunately. 2, 2. Eight. What I'm trying to do is actually limit the scaling right now of the textures to 3.799. So this may be a little bit of a devil's deal here. I'm trying to 7. Well, there it is. I am trying to get away with cheating this little modulo math limitation here. And it's possible that you can get some results from this. I fantasized that this would work. It's 3.5. And it's 3.54, 3.54, 3.53. What about 3.5? 2. Okay, so 3.532. I'm trying to extend the I'm trying to extend this to be 5.4, 5.4, 5.3. Maybe extend this gap here so I have control. So unfortunately, nice try, Tom. I tried doing that here to sort of give myself a reprieve from the artifacts, but alas, the artifacts remain. I thought maybe by doing a very little bit of limiting like this, it would prevent the artifacts from appearing. But as you can see, it's not doing it. Unfortunately, thought I'd give it a shot. There really are times where these things are hard to see and you almost feel like you've got them beat, and then there they are again. Okay. Let's turn this off here. So this doesn't do us any favors. This just literally truncates the image that we're trying to keep from getting distorted. Well, this has been a little bit fruitless. To be fair, it's been fruitless. I would have liked to have been able to have solved this, and maybe even it still will be. I do feel like one of the biggest breakthroughs I got was the input and using the texture, the image texture. So let's go look at that. We have checker textures, bricks, gradient textures. Man, I don't think that's going to help us. IES texture. I don't think that's going to work, but we'll play with it, see what happens. Or maybe you could do something with the procedural texture, sky texture. So the wave texture, I know actually is available in Blender Game Engine. We'll go to here, patterns. It's under. We'll do the wave texture here. It's the same. I think it's the same exact thing here. Yeah. So I'm curious to see if the artifacts appear with the procedural textures. I'm assuming they don't because they are procedural. True to form, they do not. So this is actually something that maybe could be examined. So if I'm not actually solving the problem, I can start asking the questions that get us there. And what I can say is that this does get rid of the artifacts when we have these procedural textures being used. So now I think the procedural textures, they are procedural and therefore do not actually have any bearing things here, but you can see that they don't actually the scaling doesn't line up here, but I can just quickly adjust the scaling like this so that it fits correctly. And the colors line up and all that stuff. This could be what ultimately would help us is perhaps getting this texture here. Ooh, doing something funky. Anyway, getting this texture here to our textures, our terrain texture to no longer be a mip-map texture, but at the same time somehow be considered procedural. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense actually, so I'm not sure that's possible. But rings? So the rings are actually making things show up more because it's repeating the rings here, so you get the bands and the saws and the wave. We also have noise texture, which should probably really show up, because I know the noise is procedural, so let's do the factor here. It's completely procedural, so it doesn't actually mirror itself. It never actually ends up lining up, especially if you do a bunch of distortion like this. Well, there's the line. So you can never really get these to line up perfectly because it's random procedural. But what's interesting to note is the artifact is gone. And also, well, to be fair, there is no MIP mapping occurring with this texture. So what is interesting is that were you to use this, let's just run the game really quick for a second, see what happens. Okay, let's flip the normals on this face and try that again. So there it is. You can actually see when we go like this, there's an adjustment happening to the noise. I don't think it's the MIP mapping. I think it's yeah, it's not MIP mapping or anything like that. There is no MIP mapping for this. So it could be possible that if the offset of the texture is what's causing this artifact, you could play with the view distance of the camera distance enough that it allows you to offset the artifact from happening or prevent it from happening without making a noticeable change to the actual texture. So much though that it doesn't start to get grainy without MIP mapping, and also perhaps doesn't damage performance so much. I'm curious if I took say the color like so and then applied it here and then did an offset like this. What if I were to invert this value 0.250? What if I just did negative? Nothing happens. Just worth a shot. So you can see the artifact really shows up there. I was thinking perhaps I could somehow make this, you know, this texture a noise texture, or have it affected in some way. In some ways it sort of does actually, but you can still see the artifact is there. So this is masking the artifact with noise, and then as you get closer the artifact just appears again. Not to mention the fact that the noise is still there, so at this point you might as well just remove MIP mapping from the image. So that's not going to do anything for us. Alright, so that doesn't do anything. So we know that this does solve the problem. It's really unfortunate that it's so stark like that. Because it would be really wonderful to be able to just turn that off. Huh. what if we, instead of doing some sort of negative value here, we use the camera vector, separate RGB, and we use the view vector, and we use the blue factor here. The blue is the depth here, so, and then we had some math here. So that brings it closer. We could bring it farther like that. Maybe we could divide it so that the offset is more extreme, or more or less extreme. Or we could set like a maximum value of MIP mapping. So a minimum. So by setting a minimum value, maybe a minimum would get us out of hot water here, or clamping things in such a way. Now, well, I'm not about to complain, but this actually has been the most progress I've made so far. Alright, that's perhaps less than will work here. So we could use a ceiling here, ceiling math, or floor, I suppose, ground, floor. Nope. Try rounding things off. That's not going to do anything. Fraction? Nope. Cosine? So cosine's interesting, but it's not really arcsine. Cosine? Power? That doesn't look so bad. And then there's absolute. Arctangent. Okay, so actually arctangent seems to have been the most beneficial, and that's not very much. So pretty much, let's view the view vector as though we were designing with it. Here, multiply. We're going to multiply here, and so there. So the view vector here is a better thing to do. It's not the depth, it's what's facing in front of the camera. So my impression is that, like, if something's off to the side here, it will be less noticeable than if it's facing right in the camera here. So right, like in my viewfinder here, this value here should delete it like so, but then things that are outside the view of the camera, like up there, will not be. So for instance, if I did 2, alright, let's go to 1 or 0. -1. Alright, so if we did this, then squeezed it maybe, center, we could control where the center of this whole thing is. I think I want to invert this. Yeah, unfortunately that's not really doing me any favors either. Okay, so clamp, multiply, divide, value. There's an optimistic motion there for a second. Interesting. Right there seems to be like a peak. Just for like a glorious second, it all disappears, and then it's back again. Let's use camera data. Alright, view depth or view distance. We have a couple of options here. We have view distance or view depth. 14. Doesn't look better, no. Let's try and do a maximum here. Sorry, I mean a minimum. Minimum. Alright. Let's turn off that clamping stuff here, though. Okay. Do maximum. Okay, minimum. Okay. Fuck. Okay, that's not gonna work. Oh well. So this has been a really long exploration into the heart of darkness, into the heart of node darkness, and has been kind of fruitless. Hasn't really gone anywhere. So, oh well. But you know, sometimes these things can they can provide other stuff too. I don't know what this is here. I'm not sure if this is really helping at all. U vector, no. U vector, internal, external. That did nothing. So ultimately we have this texture here and it's not really doing what we want. The artifacts still remain. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing them right now, but I've been given false hope so many times at this point that I just don't believe it. Yep, it's right there. So again, less noticeable now than it was before. I guess the only thing left to try, perhaps, is to do something really wild. Maybe scale it up and down a lot. Vector. Maybe we do prior and then after. So let's try that out. Giving up is not really something that I do. So I'm not giving up. Okay. So now we have. Let's go a little bit bigger than that, because that's going to cause problems on the line. Okay, so we're here, and then we go back down here. We'll bring it back down to 1, 1, 1. And these are the vectors. We don't want to change the color here. We want to change the scale. So, all right, we're going to be 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, and then we bring it up to 10, 10, 10, 10. Now, let's do a test, and let's see if anything has changed. Sometimes things can surprise you. Let's take a look. Alright, so we have this, and okay, there's no real interpolation going on, but see, we're blessed not to have this issue. Also, there doesn't seem to be much in terms of repeating. It doesn't seem to be repeating properly. So let's see if we can get that working. So 100, 100, 100. Okay. It's kind of worth noting that right now these, oh, that worked. Huh. So what do I see here? Well, I don't see a texture repeat here, but also I don't see any kind of drastic improvements here. I guess we can go insane here. 0.001, and then scale it up. Well, we scale it up really big, then go the other way. Come on, Thomas, you do that. Okay, 0.001. All right. Okay. Well, I don't see it. Wouldn't be the first time I've been led astray, though. Let's 001. Cautiously optimistic. Okay, let's do with the texture here because it's a little confusing looking at what well, let's use point. So let's take out the calculator here so we can see things better. All right, so 1 times 2 equals 2, 4, 6, 8, 32. All right, so just do 100, 100, 100, right? So scale up big, scale up small. $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, and don't tease me. There's the artifact, just like always. Does the scaling actually affect how much mapping is happening? It does. Now that's interesting. So the scaling here. So if it's really low resolution, Now this is interesting. So if this is scaled way up, this seamlessness, what if we have like 0.001, 0.001, 0.001, and then we do 1, 1, 1, 1, and then we start messing with these values. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and now we do 5, 5, 5. We start messing with these values. So what I'm noticing is that if I do this, 0.001, there's bigger gaps in these offsets. I don't know what that means. Ooh, that's interesting. What's going on there? Huh. Why do I have 2 artifacts? Why is the artifact not exactly on the line right there? Now that's okay, let's go to the view for a second here. 0.0001. Okay, we're really close. Why did the artifact? I can see the line right there, and there's no error. Did I just offset the artifact? I did. How did I do that? that's point, that's point. Let's do 0, 0, 0. Oh shit, that's why. 1, 1, 1. And do 1, 1, 1. Negative 500. So it seems that when you do a really high number, it's there. Color. What do we do? Camera. Vector input camera layer. Color. Invert. So there's the color. Right, and now the view depth times -1, negative 555, 5. All right, what did that do? Did absolutely shit all. Can I talk to you? Yes. Okay. Kind of stopped narrating here, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop. Okay, so we have the camera data here, and it's plugging into this. Well, those are rather nasty little artifacts, aren't they? All right. So playing with that value doesn't seem to do much. Maybe there's something in cycles that allows me to separate the curves. I don't know. I don't think bevel's going to do anything. Why not? I think bevel has absolutely no effect on anything really whatsoever. Yeah, I didn't think so. I mean, Here's a look at this. Does the bevel actually have something to it? I'm looking at the bevel right now because green is then we have blue, which is oh, that's something different. Let's dump back in here really quick. So we've actually gone through quite a few different things here. Boy, doesn't look like it can be fixed. I would have really hoped to have been able to get something out of this. I'm not going to stop, actually. I'm going to keep looking. Let's see if we can find something. Converters, scripts. Ew. IE5 texture. That's the gradient textures. Well, it's possible that if we allow gradients, these will work. I guess what else is there to try? We can also try the checker texture. That's not going to do anything wrong. It doesn't provide any offset stuff, does it? Maybe it does. So do we have any patterns? Do we have checker texture? The same thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's the same thing. Well, we've tried everything else, right? What could you do with the checker texture that you couldn't do? Well, you could possibly use it to somehow frame things. Let's find out. Here. Now we have our checker pattern. I'm going to clear the rotation here and add a plane and delete all this nonsense that I had. Okay, so, and one more time, clear that nonsense that I have and add a plane. Okay, so we have a checker texture. You know, this is kind of encouraging because there's no artifact. And indeed, there's a checker to it, so maybe. Let's take a look and see what we get. it's allowing us to do some vector math here. Maybe we can apply this to our needs. There's always a chance, right? Color 1 is this checker texture here, and color 2 is the same exact texture color. Now, there's our typical problem. It's always there. It's ever present, really. But in this case, we might be able to actually scale the checker texture in such a way that we get something out of it. Let's take a look and see. So here is our checker texture here. Alright, so it's scaling up in such a way that it is using global coordinates, I believe. So let's use global coordinates here, which is over here. That's view, Thomas. Global coordinates. Okay, so we have global coordinates. Now, it's pretty wild that it's doing all that scaling stuff. Okay, there we are. So we have global coordinates and we have the textures. Now, this is actually pretty promising because if we do have this, it's possible that we could plug this into the checker texture and effectively mask off the artifact if there's a way to change the scaling of the artifact. So the artifact currently is there. I see you. I see the artifact, but right now it's not hitting us. So what if we just did that? Of course, there it is. So altering the checker texture here won't do us any good because, well, you know exactly why. But a thought occurs that if I scale up, or if I shrink after we do the modular math, we scale it up ever so slightly, then the textures perhaps will be blocked by this. So let me take a look and see if I can do that. Sometimes these simple things come to you, and it's not, these aren't arcane knowledges, these aren't things that you can't do, it's just, it sometimes just takes a person to do it. I know that sounds wild and sounds strange, but it's really all there is to it usually. Okay, so here it is. We have our texture pattern. If I'm just able to get let's look at the factor here. There's our checker factor. What is checker factor exactly? What am I looking at here? Huh. Well, okay. Whatever I'm looking at, I don't care. What I want is the vectors to be global, right? And then I want this to get bigger. All right, so the factor is a checker, but right now we have a color. Now, what if we toy with the scaling of this? You can see it's checker, but here getting the same exact result because it's using checker textures. But if we use global here, we're still using this same atlas repeat nonsense. But 0.25. What we want to do is get rid of these artifacts by any means necessary. Now right now there's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? What is the scale exactly doing? Show me what the scale is doing here. I want to see what the scale is doing. This changes the size of the textures. Okay. So this it's scaling it down centrally from the center. We want the edge, right? So the problem is that with each image, there needs to be a slight offset because of the artifact. So if you go up 1 pixel, it's still going to have the bottom piece down there, unless you go up 1 pixel, double the size. So let's look at that. All right. Let's go 1.5. All right, so all right. Oh, one more thing I was also looking at is vector mapping. Not that. Ugh. This. All right. What if you just rotated it? It doesn't do anything, does it? That'd be pretty cool if it just fixed it. You know, like, oh, is this got to be at a slight angle? Like, gosh. It does sort of seem to affect it, but it's not really doing any good. -1, -1, -1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, so okay, we want to offset this just by a little bit. What if I can just get it? So look, right, I have this atlas repeat, sure. And I want to scale it off ever so slightly, just like that, so that I can get my checker texture to mix. You know, why am I killing myself here? You don't want to do this calculation twice, you want to put it right here. Okay, there, that's better. 1, 2, 3. Now that's interesting, actually. Perhaps you don't want it to be seamless within the modulo, because then you're losing the, yeah, okay, so we'll do point 1.1. So 1.00, 1.005. 1.05. Let's go back to something very crisp here. All right, so we have this edge. This looks promising. Now the problem is, once I go here, we should really here I should create a grid. So when you're creating something like this, and you're really kind of in the weeds like I am right now, it's good to create guides. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to just add a plane. Cursor selection. I'm going to duplicate this. Add a plane. It's already there, and I'm going to subdivide it until I get what I think is the correct number of cuts to represent this. Okay, so subdivide. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So now we have this section, and let's pretend that we want that little section there to always be offset so that we get to only see that one section. We're going to go to our material tab. We're going to add a new material. Let's add red. All right, now we are now in our red material. So let's go here, and we're going to look at it with orthographic. That's 5 on the number pad. Orthographic allows you to get a low orthographic view. So if we can provide an offset to this in such a way that we get essentially an auth. Here, now. I'm going to delete only the faces, so we have the grid here, so I can see what I'm working with. All right, now this should be better. So we want to get it so that that's within the box here. Am I still speaking within the box? Oh, I'm still within the box. Fantastic. So people in the Discord are still here. Hi everyone. I think that Doug and Cleaver may have actually responded. But let's go back to work here. So we'll close down these images with the tests here, and let's try and scale this down so it fits. All right, so we're over here, and 0.25. Okay, so we can change the scale of this in such a way that we get control over things, and also move this around. So red, green, and blue, alpha 2. All right. Now scale that down so it fits within the box. So I guess I'm just sort of ever so slightly shimmying my way back to a scenario where I'm able to create a boxed off version of this texture here. .25. So 0.25 is exactly here. .5. All right. There's my gruesome little artifact. All right. For now, I'm just going to use these offset nodes here, so I can just do it by hand. But eventually, having a very elegant system handle this would be pretty useful. It's all very complicated. All right. Oh my. It's very difficult to keep track of all this stuff here and make sure it works right. I'm going to take this modulo math out here. All right, the red, green, it's the image and the scale. All right. Okay, so we have, let's say, that one. 1.2, 1.2. All right. All right. So that's what we need to do. We need to scale this down by 50%, like this. We need smaller squares. Okay, why? Why smaller squares? Just because. Don't ask questions. All right, 0.25, okay. What's 0.25 is? 1, 2, 5, right? 2.5. Let's go calculator again. Oops, wrong one. Calculator. We're going to do 2.5 divided by 2 is, oh, sorry. This is so something like this. Okay. It's very difficult to sort of concentrate because I've tried so many different attempts here. So I'm not going to try too hard here. I'm just going to try and figure it out. All right, so I'm just going to do it my way. This stuff is very painful to watch, I know. Maybe I'll fast forward this whole video, you know, for the benefit of mankind. I don't think anyone needs to see me figure this thing out, but I know a lot of you would like to have the answer, so let's see if we can do it. So we have the height and the scaling, and that we don't have the scaling of the app. That's why we need to be able to scale these stupid things. All right, let's do how many we got here. So 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Let's see what we get. White. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Queen's Gambit, there's 8 in there. Okay, fantastic. So that is the size. Now, gotta move this thing around until it fits. Well, let's just take a look at the center here. Here's my chess piece. Let's turn up the LOD bias here. Now we have 1. What's over here? And if I do that, 0.001. And 0.001. Or let's just do let's do 0.5. 5. Now that's a good point. I could just do this. Good point. Huh. So no matter what I do here, can I scale the size? Okay. So no matter what, this has to be what's affected. No matter what. No matter the cost. Right? Right. Right. No matter the cost, that has to be affected. First. Alright, 0.01, 0.05. How about that? How about that? Alright, now how about this? How about that? Negative 0.001, negative 1. This is that's a good point. So here's the interesting thing. It works. That was not something I expected. I did not expect this to work. But look, we're close because we have 50% cut off. That's more than half. Now the only problem is that if you go over here, the artifact also presents itself here as well. But the brick texture, right? Let's go to input, color, patterns, brick texture. Let's see what this offers, because the brick texture might actually allow us to really get some stuff done here. Ooh, yeah. Was bevel always plugged into normals? Well, it has to be plugged into the fucking normals, so. Huh. Okay, so we're going back here. You might be able to mask it off. Let's take a look. Patterns, brick texture. So this is actually kind of interesting because scales 1:1, right? What if we want bias? brick width 0.5, 25. Row height 0.5. No, 0.5. No. No. Got it. Okay. So what we're doing again is we're trying one more time. I actually think I'm going to achieve it now because we know what we need to do. There needs to be an offset, but this should work. So I'm actually pleased to say that I will be able to solve this. Let's see if I'm in camera. Good. All right, so we've been recording the entire thing. So after looking through most of the known solutions, I'd say it's very unlikely to be able to solve the vector math directly within the nodes. But there seems to be a fairly lightweight workaround that may work, which is using the brick textures to mask it off. I would be using this myself. In fact, I will, and my game will include this. But if you've been able to stick with me through this whole thing, you will now be rewarded because I think I figured it out. So again, thank you to the patrons. Like I said, these things can be solved. I think this has been plaguing people in the Uplander Discord for about, I don't know, months or something like that, including myself. And so today I thought I would dedicate my time to coming up with a workaround, and until a better solution presents itself, this seems to be the fix. And it's simply masking off the brick textures. Mask them off. Just mask them off with using the procedural brick texture because it's procedural. So let's jump in and do it. Fortunately, we have a wonderful grid here. So you could actually just use a texture. You don't actually even need to use what I'm using now. You don't need to use procedural textures. You could actually just use regular texture. Yeah, you could. Well, for the purposes of this tutorial, or not tutorial really, just this is my devlog, I suppose. I'm going to do it with the procedural texture, and then at a later date, it would be very easy to use a very small, low resolution JPEG or pixel to simply mask off that region and have it seamlessly repeat. And then you just mix the red and the green, and there you go. So let's do that. And this is also a good start to just know what we're working with. So we're going to have the brick width is 0.5, and I know we need a chessboard because this is set up to be like a chessboard. So let's do that. We don't want things to be offset incorrectly. Okay. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Perfect. Now the bias, we want everything the same. And the mortar size, or in our case, the mask for the odious and sinister vector is probably going to be able to be fixed. So let's go forward. Another thing, actually, not to get too off topic here, if the you could use the same thing actually to disable the MIP mapping, or set the MIP mapping to an offset to whatever the tune of your the vector error is, because for instance here we've created it as well here. So simply put, this is procedural, so it's based on vectors, which means that you could actually take this information and then subtract it from the current view situation that's causing the offset. So just as a little harebrained experiment, let's figure that out. All right, so let's go back to 1, and let's choose a texture that shows up the error a lot here. Shows off our big old fat error. Perfect, look at that. That's really up in our face. So it seems to do this kind of consistent little checkerboard thing like this. And normally we'd be helpless to help ourselves, but this time we have the power of vectors to save us. So we can go to the factor here. And look, you don't even need to use the color, you can simply use the factor, which is even more efficient, by the way. And let's take a look and see at this horrible thing that's been plaguing us. Now, if we go back and forth here, we'll probably get some sort of consistent result. That is the offset, and that's the factor. So remember this vector math here. This vector math is offsetting things. Let's do it again. Vector. Okay, so we have some dashes here, and now a bit of wider dashes, so we can actually probably go a little bit bigger than that. Too big. As dastardly as this seems, as cheap and low down dirty as this is, at the end of the day, if it works, it works. Wow, this is pretty crazy if this works. Okay, so it is preferable to do it this way, for one reason, and that's because you're only mixing this RGB. So we have the mortar size, the mortar width, and the mortar stickiness, I guess. This is like the bias here. So what's called the mortar, let's read that. The mortar smoothness. We want no smoothness because this is not smooth. All right. Let's go back here. So we have lengthened dashes, and now these are shorter dashes, so we're gonna make our size a little bit bigger here. So we're gonna 2, 2, 5. I'll go back to our color. It does seem to sort of so 5, 23. Smoothness. Let's do 28, 25, 22, 20, 18, 11. Okay, so it does look like this is delivering a different result. That's not exactly marrying up with what we're trying to do, so it may not be in my best interest to pursue this right now, because it's going to take a long time and be a pain in the butt. And that's fine. For now, we'll just do the we'll do what's expected here. So, unfortunately, these dots and these dashes, the error is not really lining up. It may be I need to multiply it by the view depth. Look, there's something else affecting things, but for now, let's ease away from that. We don't need that. All we need is color 1, which I guess this is the mortar. We want the mortar to be the fill-in, and color 1 is going to be brick A. So we don't want to have 2 colors. We don't need to have all that stuff. That's not going to help us. We just want to mix the colors. Color mix RGB, and we want 1 to be, and we're just going to use the factor. There we go. So this gets us out of jail. So we're going to make the mortar width just a little bit bigger because it doesn't matter that much in the end. It does, but for now, let's do it this way. Okay, so we have this, and we have this. Once we have these items here, let's just do a quick preview and take whatever this was and do vector mapping. So I think this is going to offset the texture. Well, we don't want to offset. We want to offset the world geometry. We don't want to offset anything else. So we're going to move this over here. And well, we're not going to worry too much about making extra calculations right now. So we're only going to make one calculation, and that's so let's clean the slate here. No, we need you stick around. Okay, and all right. Now it occurs to me that actually I don't want to do this to the texture. I want to do this to the vectors, because the vectors are where the error is occurring. So that's actually kind of convenient, because I don't want to give myself the headache. So we want atlas repeat to be mixed. So converter vector map. So, well, we could try vector mapping here, vector math. I apologize for anyone here that's still watching this. This could take a long time. Average, dot product, cross product, normalize. Yeah, the error is still there. What a wonderful error that is. That's alright, it's no big deal. We finally got it fixed. So we have our chessboard size, and without worrying too much about efficiency for now, we're going to take the vector of this output. So whatever this vector is, it's going to be like a little bit of a red and green rainbow here. So it's like kind of like red and green there, or yellow and green, sorry. And then we're going to now mask it off. So let's take, we'll just, again, we're not concerned with efficiency right now. So this is pretty inefficient doing it this way. I think that we don't need to do it this way. We would need to probably go inside here and nudge the value, one of these values, a little bit. In fact, you could probably do that very quickly with just, instead of duplicating it, you could probably just use a color mix node. So color mix RGB. Actually, no. Color. Sorry for all these false starts here. We'd have it happen. Vector math here. No, we're not going to do that. Vector transform. Patterns, vector, converter, vector math. Alright, now. So this will allow us to offset the image, but we don't want to offset the image. We want to offset the overall texture. That's this. So this allows us to keep things going, but offset the image texture. The only problem, of course, being it's inefficient at the moment, but that's okay. As long as it works, it works. We can work backwards from there. Adjective Beaver taught me that. So here we go. This will be the first one, and the second one will take place right over here. And here we go. That should do it. And there. So ideally we want to have pretty much the same look. So let's see if we go, this will go point to the left, and this will go 0.2 to the right. Okay, so this will go 0.2. This is going 0.2 down, so now you're going 0.2 up. So you guys gotta keep track of where you're going. And that's it. Alright, that should be it. So now we have these two textures. And color mix them. So again, not the most efficient way to do this, but it's working. We just have to see what size I have to make that mortar. So you can see the mortar gets bigger, and there's a little bit of like a special predator pattern here. It's like kind of, I just realized something else. This is the problem that never ends, isn't it? As if you move it off, there's always still going to be a slight, there will always be one pixel, no matter what, that's off. That's off. Because here, we're in the center here, but if we move this off, no matter what, it will always have an offset, a slight offset, no matter what. So here, I'll just scale this one up here for now. I guess you could just make the mortar size really big. Right? So this is interesting. So you're always going to have these lines going. Okay. Can we alter the bias? All right. We're going to smooth, we can smooth the mortar ever so slightly like this, and you can see we're actually smoothing the gradient, which is, that's a nice feature. Being able to smooth this, but it's really kind of distorting this. It's because of the vector math here. Let's do multiply, add, subtract. Let's try it the old-fashioned way. So, what I did here was I kind of merged them together. I was being a little too exuberant. Let's go simple for now. We're going to just mix the colors here. So this is the color 1, and this will be color 2, and this will be the factor. And it does appear to be more efficient. So we can actually kind of blend things out here, and mortar size, increase the size of the mortar, and the mortar smoothness too. Let's look at the factor for just a moment, because I want to see what I'm blocking off here. Huh. Squash. No. .5. No. 1. 1. Three, 4. Chess set. It's got to be the size of a chess set. Yikes. Okay. We're almost there. Mortar size is I'll be damned, it still kind of shows up. So it needs to be incredibly small, like the offset. The offset needs to be the most minute, tiny little offset. And I'm not sure whether I move it. I think I move it. You can also scale this. You can also scale this. But let's take a look at the colors here for a moment. Alright, so this one here has to look correct. So, alright, you go there. Okay, so it's got to look right. It's got to look just like this one. So this one needs to look like that one. Also, the scale seems to have changed. So .001, 0.001, 0.001. Now, let's just take a look here and see. Because it could be that 1 pixel offset is all that needs to happen, and then you're done. So that's one. What's the other? Well, that's interesting. It must be because this color offset's too extreme. Alright, so now you can see there's an ever so slight difference between the two. Points 0.001. So this is a very extremely subtle change. But it could be that one little pixel off is really what solves the problem. Let's take a look here and see if it worked. Mortar size. So the size of the mortar . The other problem is it can't be directly on top of one of them because you're opening and closing directly on top of one of the edges here. So you want the these to be offset a little bit as well too. So let's see here, squash. Right, well, what's the, where's the offset here? Okay, there's one. Okay, we have this and the atlas repeat. And there it is. Okay, it's right there. Then the factor is over there. So the factor should be masking this thing off. Now this one has to be completely way off the line. One, two. I mean, it does do it. Now what? -0.1, -0.1. Alright, so -0.15, -0.125. Right in the middle. Why not? Okay. So this is -1.25, and it'll be what? Right. So I went to the right, so now I gotta go to the left. really cool. I mean, I'm a little proud of him, yeah. Shouldn't you be proud of the guy? So my brain is so fried. I've sort of reduced myself to just eyeballing this thing. And my voice is pretty hoarse, so I've even kind of stopped narrating. But well, this is what it takes, guys and gals. Perseverance. Okay, how's that look? Red. That's the one we want. I go up. I gotta go up and over a bit here. So. All right, let's see how that looks. Doesn't like her. Why would I lie to her? All right, so that's pretty close. 1 and 2. That's the one you want. Just the right one. Bad one. Heat. I mean, that's pretty close. So this one here is right, and this one here is a little to left. So go a little bit to the right. All right, that's close. That's really close. Okay, so ultimately, what I had to do was I had to resort to constantly Hmm. So now that I'm looking at this, careful, Mike. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that recreating the offset will actually help me, because you want to directly replace a 1-to-1 ratio. You want to replace on a 1-to-1 ratio the error, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think I just figured out the problem. And that's to get the factor. So rather than masking this whole thing off, which does work, and you'll probably get it down to like 1 pixel, having it getting the factor directly from here would vector, let's see what the vector is: normal mapping, vector transform, vector curves, parallax. We want to use vector math? No. We want to use okay. I think you may want to use the actual color of the vector map here. So if you actually converter and do a separate, and converter go combine RGB, so the vector here is going to be what? It's just going to be the Yep. Okay, so let's try this out. I'm going to make a new texture. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to make a new texture. We're going to make it called, let's just open one up here. Don't lose that file, Tom. This is the Atlas fix. Let's go back one more time here. Let's make a new texture. Let's go to our single texture. We're going to go in here and we're going to get a image, and we're going to find just a nice black and white image. Let's see here. We have, this looks promising. Let's just use this for now. It's a grayscale image, so using a nice grayscale image will be perfect here. We have some vampire fangs. Let's use this. Oh, use that. No, use this black one here. It's perfect. Okay. We're going to call it blender.bng. Blender.png. Okay. Now we're going to go back over here, and we're going to get this one to make this blender.png. Let's see what we get out of that. As I expected, but this time we have an idea. be a dog and liar. Alright, so this one here, we can actually probably move so that it doesn't compete with anything. Now, what am I looking at here? You're looking at potential victory here. So you now have your error laid before you. So now let's look at our original. That's not our original, is it? No, that's the original. Okay, so okay, so all right, we want just a neutral one like this, and we want the texture atlas and this, and now apply the color. And that's 1, and this should be the enemy. There's the enemy. So effectively what I've done is I've married up the error by using pixels. This is going to be nuts, but let's do it. So we want this to affect this by really increasing the contrast, I think, to nothing, because there can be no LOD bias. So essentially we turn off any LOD bias for any of the we're going to squeeze these values here, and we're going to really increase it like this. So now you're being a bad guy, man. You understand that, right? Well, that'll do it. Dumb luck. So we fixed it. This only took me about 4 or 5 hours, but the problem is solved. Now there's a few visual glitches. For instance, based on viewer distance, you need to get the accurate viewer distance and have that multiply times the. You have to have that multiplied to the. Well, my brain is fried. You have to multiply to the level of detail bias. So multiply the camera vector times the level of detail bias, and problem is fixed. Okay, so I'm talking into the mic now. The problem is solved. Now, if you've been sticking with me through this entire thing, I invite you to support me on my Patreon at Feral3D, patreon.com/Feral3D. This is a solution to the Texture Atlas seamless problem. I'm here fixing problems every single day in the UpBlender game engine, and I am publishing and making a game that will be released in October called The Shadows Lengthen, which is an open world game built entirely in Blender and the UpBlender game engine. Any support that you throw my way also is support for your project, your game, and the open source community at large. So this is kind of the right thing to do. Wow, it's been a journey. I hope some people have realized that even people that are highly skilled have to sit here and just noodle away with stuff until it just comes into your mind that, oh, I could use the factor of another texture much lower in resolution to essentially cancel this out. There's probably an even more elegant way to do this. Maybe you can actually take the current texture and play it against itself or invert it. But this will work. So having a simple 1x1 texture, really small, and then multiplying it by this modular math so that you get the factor, the white and the dark, and then you use that to effectively just mask off the error. It's a little bit of extra processing that solves a very large problem that has been plaguing myself and a lot of other people. So this is the fix. This video has been going on for 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 45 seconds. There's a lot of dead air here because I stopped talking for a while. But such is the nature of making 3D games. Thank you all so much for watching, if you did, and thank you for your support. I'll end the video now. Oh, also patrons will have access, of course, to the solution.
What's that?